Okay, I want to try and show you something about my concentrics and about how they behave regards a fixed magnet. Now, it's kind of hard to do this and hold it. Right, I'll just get this pot of lubrication. Right, I'll stick this blue tack on here. I'll stick my magnetic gauge on there. Now, our magnetic gauge, now, let's see what happens as I bring the magnet, these old Nicos, towards the gauge. Watch what happens. I'll back out a bit. I'll turn it around. I'll bring them in again. You'll see that they move linearly, that's equally. Right. Now, the concentrics. Now, when I use the 8 concentrics on one side and I use the 4 concentrics on the other side, we have an interesting, well, it still works even with 8 on both sides, but it seems to be more prominent and it seems to be a better switch when it's set like this. Now, if I stick this on, let me stick this on here. Right, if I stick this on the end of my magnetic gauge like that. Oh God, how do I hold it now? Hang on a minute. Blue tack to the rescue. Right, okay. Now, as I bring my magnets again towards, I'm not sure I've got it right way around. Let me just test. Bring them towards the. See? Oh, did you see how it jumped? I don't mean that last jump, I mean, right, watch again. As I bring my magnets towards it, linearly, just as before. You see it jumps out instead of linearly moving. Right, do that again. Oop! Hang on. Right, that is because the switch is flipping. The flux fields are flipping like a bubble and popping out. That's basically why I call it a bubbleator. But it works much more prominently with this arrangement with 8 on one side and 4 on the other. It basically pops out like a little, you know. Now if I bring these in again, you'll see. Obviously, the faster I bring them in, the more acceleration there is on these magnets. Oops. I don't want to come too close. Now, what that means is we have an acceleration of the switch. Now, it does work, but what I am trying to overcome at the moment, the problem I'm trying to overcome with my design, is the original design that I came up with was to have these, let's see if I can draw this out. Was a bit of paper to write on. Oh, I'll use my sticky labels. I'll have to use those. Oh, that's handy. My original design was using some steel laminations, and you might remember I had like a V shape in the laminations, and the reason for that is that the flux, when you have magnets down here, right, the flux would be going through a narrower corridor. I can't say it very well. Corridor through this point. So when it flips across, it tends to want to stay over there until it's pulled back. So this was basically to amplify the switching effect. Now, because I'm using ferrite cores now and not steel lamination, I don't have my V. Well, not totally. I do have a certain amount of V because these, when you put 2 ferrites, pop this one out, pop that one out. When you put the ferrites side by side, where the 2 meet together, you do have a little bit of a V shape there, right down the crack. Let me get this lined up, hang on. So when I put this up against, oh, I need a white background. When we look at the edge where the two pieces of right, where the edges of the two ferrites come together, there's a slight V there, right? So I do have that V section in there. It's just very insignificant compared to the mass of ferrite that's there. So I really needed a bigger V, but I can't really do that practically. I'm not going to start cutting the ferrite. So another way of doing that, to improve that junction, is to actually have some steel rings or steel washers that was much narrower than the actual ferrite, that go between the ferrites to create a much larger gap. So I'm thinking about this, but at the moment it's not easily practical to do. The only other way of doing that is to literally have an air gap between them, and then wrap a piece of steel, literally have a large air gap between them, and then use a piece of steel foil. Oh, where is it gone? Oh, this stuff. This flimsy, thin steel battery tabbing stuff, to go around on the outside to create that connection, that loose coupling connection, and by adjusting the thickness and the number of turns of this stuff around between the ferrites, it would be possible to emulate my V-shape connection, because it doesn't have to be a V-shape. The only reason it was that shape is because that's the shape of the file, but yeah, you get the idea. The point is that we need a corridor where we can flip the flux through to shape it more, to have a bigger latching effect. Now, you've seen basically a latching effect when these magnets move. Let's bring them. Ooh. This stuff just stuck to my magnet. Hang on. Right, so you've seen this wrong way around. I was right. You've seen the effect as I try to sneak up on these magnets. They don't sneak up. I can't sneak up, because you watch what happens. I'm trying to sneak up on these magnets, right, very slowly. Now look what happens. They just pop out. That is why I call it the Bubbleator. Now, sneak up again. No, I can't. These pop out because the field is flipping. But if I take this off again, right, take that completely off, and I sneak up on these magnets without the actuators on there. Now, I'll just reset that. Now if I try to sneak up, see what happens this time, get my camera lined up. You'll see that they are moving very slowly. They're moving basically in parallel with my mover, this magnet. Right. So we have no bubblation effect. Anyway, thank you for watching.